So, today we are here to discuss or to talk about something that has affected our world generally, and it has affected different people on different planes and in different dimensions. Um, COVID-19 came. Everyone had great plans for 2020 until COVID hit, right? And when COVID hit, it was like we didn't have a choice but to I would say but to pause all of those great plans, right? And a lot of businesses suffered it. A lot of businesses had to shut down. A lot of businesses had to lay staff off. A lot of businesses how to how to pivot, that is, had to change their mode of operation. Different businesses had to do different things, right? And because of that, it affected a number of other things. The ripple effects are still with us till today. There are so many economies around the world that are not able to that have not been able to recover from COVID, right? And I think that it's also an opportunity. When things like this happen, when recessions happen, it's also an opportunity for other people to take advantage of whatever it is that is happening, to see how they can make the best use of it. Um, yes, COVID hit. Yes, it affected a number of things, but some businesses have thrived in this process. In fact, there have been a number of acquisitions of businesses. One that I will talk about as we're talking about this subject is Paystack. Paystack was acquired for over $200 million. That's a lot of money, right? So yes, it was bad for some businesses, but it was also good news for some. So question now is, how do we position ourselves to be one of those businesses that that are able to ride the COVID wave, right? As the case may be, to our to our advantage. And that's essentially what we want to talk about here in this webinar. So I'll go straight into my presentation. Let me start sharing my screen now. Let me do this. Let me share, present. All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah, I hope we can see my screen. Um, yeah. So today we're talking about digital tools for business growth, and this is very important in this age because COVID has forced us to to leverage technology. I often say that businesses nowadays do not have a choice. At the time, it was a good to have, but now it's no longer a good to have. It's now a must have for you to leverage technology in your business. And the reason why this has now become even more important is because you are unable to compete on a global scale if you do not leverage technology, if you do not leverage all of these tools that we're going to talk about today. I'll go straight into it. I'll just go straight into my presentation. My name is Ololade Otayemi. Today I work as the president of Vento, and this is the first installment of our Surviving COVID webinar series. And I'll just give a brief introduction of this webinar. So this webinar in essence is designed to help businesses who have been impacted by COVID-19 to survive the impact of the pandemic, right? And with this, we have decided to open it to as many people as possible so that they can take advantage of it within whatever industry that they're in. We believe that this is an opportunity for us to help as many businesses as possible grow, especially with the impact of the pandemic. I hope we can hear me. Just let me be sure that we can hear me. All right, can we hear me? I hope you can hear me. Because sometimes nowadays it almost seems like you're talking and then people can't hear you. Hello, if you can hear me, you can just drop it in the chat box. Say hi, yes, I can hear you. So that I can know that you guys can hear me. Okay, great. You guys can hear me. All right. So I was trying to explain why we decided to come up with this webinar. Um, the entire reason and the entire uh, concept around this webinar is simple. It's that we realize that a number of businesses have been affected by COVID, and because of that, a lot of people are losing their jobs and losing their livelihood, and somebody has to do something about it. Yes, the government has been trying their best. There are a number of funds, a number of they call it survival fund and things like that, and a few people have been able to take advantage of this fund, but still it almost seems as though it's not reaching the people it's supposed to reach, right? So this was why we decided to come up with this webinar series, and we've tagged it Digital Tools for Business Success in 2021, right? And we'll be doing this for now. We want to try as much as possible to do this every week going forward. And at different times, we'll bring different people, experts in different areas, who will speak to us on different topics and different things that we can do to ensure business success during this period. Businesses, and it's important for us to also understand that businesses are important for our collective growth as a country, because the government is not capable of solving all of our problems. So the private sector folks, business owners have to come to that understanding and essentially do something about these things. Okay, the next thing for us to do now is to just go straight into our presentation, and then we talk about these digital tools and the things we can do to 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 use them in our various businesses. All right, I'm trying to share my screen with you again. Let me do that now. All right, great. So I'm going to be sharing my screen with you right away. Let me load my presentation there. Yes, my presentation is up. Okay. Okay, so I'm loading my presentation right away. All right, so now here we are. Digital tools for business growth in 2021. All right, so quickly, I'd like to introduce Vento Limited. For those of us who do not know Vento Limited, Vento is a catalyst for business success and organizational growth in Africa. We do this by providing core back office functions to aid business operation and maximize profits. So what we do essentially at Ventavon is we look at a business and we look at how we can help that business grow. We have expertise across different areas that help enables us to support businesses from behind. We often say from under the hood, and we provide services such as HR, accounting and finance, audit and compliance, procurement, engineering, technology, so many services like that that will provide customer management, consulting, and all of that. So, our core at Vent Oven is to build Africa's businesses, the businesses that are going to liberate or bring Africa to limelight. So, that's what we do at Vent Oven. All right. So let's go straight into why we are here this afternoon. What are digital tools? I know a number of people would have so many descriptions of this, so many ways, so many explanations. But what really are these digital tools? And that's the question I would like to answer first before we go into the tools themselves. Digital tools, like I said here, are programs, websites, or online resources that make tasks easier to complete. So there are a few things we need to look at there. The first thing is that there are tasks that you need to complete, right? So the digital tools will not be useful if you do not know what you're trying to achieve and what tasks you're trying to complete. So what that means in essence is that if you want to use digital tools in your business, you must be clear on what that business is trying to achieve. This is an entire conversation on its own, and we can't go into details of that in this webinar. So I'm assuming that everyone who is watching this from wherever you're watching from has some sort of, you have a business that you're running or a business that you intend to run, and you know what you're trying to achieve with that business. You know who your customers are, you know what problem you're solving for them, you know what is important to them, you know how to find them and how to reach them and all of that. So that's on one end. If you don't, maybe we can have another conversation after this webinar. All right, so that's what digital tools are. Now, there's so many benefits of using or leveraging digital tools, especially with the pandemic. When COVID hit, a number of businesses then realized how much they were missing by not being online, by not leveraging all of these digital tools, by not being proactive regarding technology and all of that. A number of businesses had to shut down. The ones who didn't shut down had to start looking for ways to let staff go or ways to cut costs. Even some had to change what they were doing, their business model entirely, right? So the first benefit we'll talk about here is versatile working. So what versatile working essentially talks about is that with digital tools, it enables you to do so many things at the same time. It enables you to achieve so much at the same time. What some people would call multitasking, which is the ability for you to achieve so much with so little work, with so little input. Second is information storage. With digital tools, you can easily store critical and important information about your business, no matter how small the business is, so that those information can become useful for you in decision making or in serving your customers better in the future. Third is it creates some kind of collaborative culture, especially if you're running a business where you have multiple team members or employees. Then digital tools become even more critical. During the lockdown, businesses had to switch to Zoom, to doing working over Zoom and all of that. That's some of the things that digital tools will enable you do. Right. So the next thing is that it gives room for more ideas, for new ideas. And the reason is simple. You see, when you start leveraging digital tools, you then begin to see some other things that you can do with those tools. And the funny thing is, sometimes the people who created those tools did not intend for them to be used for that. We're incredibly creative human beings. Practical example: when Zoom was developed to be a meeting platform, so where you have meetings with your colleagues and your potential clients. But then people started using Zoom for webinars, right? The guys that made Zoom did not intend for you to use it as a webinar too. So because of that, the Zoom guys then said, you know what, if people are using this our product for webinar, why don't we create a webinar product within this product? Then they created Zoom webinars, and they're making a killing from that alone, right? So that's what happens when we begin to leverage digital tools. It enables us to come up with new ideas, and most times those new ideas don't help us to use these tools to better improve whatever we're using them for, be it our business or personal lives. Then the fifth one is remote working. I often say that remote working is not the same thing as vacation, right? Or sitting at home and not doing anything. Remote working just means that you're working in a different location from your other team members, right? So it actually means you're working, right? So digital tools enable you work, but from a different location from your colleagues. Next is improved customer experience. With digital tools, you're able to really improve the experience of your customers, and because these tools are easily accessible, most times they're available around the globe. Most times they are available at different locations, regardless of where your clients or your customers are. It makes it easier for you to improve your experience, or their experience and how they interact with your product. And it also saves cost. In fact, if not for anything, the one reason why I would encourage people to leverage some of these tools is that you're going to save yourself a lot of headache and a lot of costs, right? And as a business, you must always understand that it's important for you to figure out ways to save costs. So these tools help you to do that. The next and the final one is transparency, and this is especially even more important when we're now in a world where data privacy, data transparency is becoming more important, right? So these tools help you to be more transparent, and also to hold people accountable to transparency. It helps us to hold organizations, our customers, our people that we patronize, I don't know what to call them now, our clients, right, accountable for transparency, which is really becoming more important in our world today. And I often say that most times when something has an advantage, it often has disadvantages as well. Sorry, before I continue, let me say that you can leave your questions in the chat box as we're going. So when we get to a point, I'll go through them and take questions, right? So please don't hesitate to leave your questions in the chat box. Okay. So, like I was saying, literally everything that has an advantage has a disadvantage. So that means that as these tools have their advantages, reasons why we should use them, they also have some sort of disadvantage. But the truth is, every one of the cons, every one of the disadvantages have workarounds, and I'll also mention some of the workarounds as I talk about them. The first is the loss of interpersonal communication. When the lockdown started and a number of companies had to go remote and people were working from home, we began to lose touch. We began to lose that interpersonal relationship with our colleagues, and it seemed like it started affecting productivity. A number of things took the heat for that, right? So the workaround to this is, and this is what I often encourage, that teams should always have periods where they have, even if it's some sort of virtual hangout, virtual check-in call, so that at least you know that your colleague is still alive and is still a human being. It's no longer a zombie. It's not yet a zombie, right? So it's important that we do that. Then the next thing is we become more so dependent on technology. Today, I can say that there are a number of us, even on this call, that if we do not have access to the internet for a day, we can almost run mad. And that's what this has done to our generation. It's now so bad. And I was having a chat with one of my colleagues yesterday, and we're trying to calculate something. And typically, before now, as we were saying the numbers, I would have started calculating it in my head and saying, okay, yes, so if we do this, do that, then you now say, okay, this will cost us 300,000. Okay, 300,000. If we're doing that in 15 places, that's how much. All right. See, okay, yeah, okay, great. And then I come up with the numbers. But now I'm so lazy, I can't even be bothered. The next thing I do is to pick my phone and open the calculator app. It's just one swipe away, right? And that's the truth. So with that, relating that to a business, now there's some businesses that if the server where they take their orders go down, that business will be grounded to a halt until that server comes back up. And that is what we have seen when we begin to leverage these tools. So we become so dependent on technology that if anything happens technology-wise, we are in trouble, right? So the workaround for that is for us to always have a backup plan, set of backup processes and procedures for whenever things go wrong technology-wise, so that our dependence on technology will not grind our business or whatever we're doing to a halt. Next is that in some cases, remember that I said it saved you costs, but in some cases, leveraging digital tools increases your costs. And the reason why it is important for us to note this here is very simple. If you do not know the right tools to use for what you're trying to do, if you are trying to save costs and you use the wrong tool, it will go the other way and increase your costs. So this is why it's important for us to have good knowledge of these tools and know when to use them and how to use them. Sometimes people think that just because I'm setting up a server for my business, I'm doing that, I'm going to be saving costs. If you don't do it right, you will not necessarily save costs. In fact, you might incur more costs than you were trying to save. Right? That's one. Two, if the people who are using or utilizing the tools do not know how to use it right, right, you might end up incurring more costs. That's another part of it. The second part of it is, the third part of it is, from time to time, these tools are improved on. These tools change. If you don't go with the trend to know what tools are in vogue now, you would be increasing your cost because you'll still be using the old tool at the old price, and most times the new tools are oftentimes cheaper and more effective than the ones you were using before. So this is why it's important for us to have sessions like this where we better understand these tools and how to use them. Then resistance to change is another issue here. In all of us, like human beings, naturally, we don't like change. We just naturally do not like change. Like we like things to remain the way they are. That's why when a new trend comes, people fight it at first, then a few people jump on it, the early adopters, like we call them, jump on it, and then everybody just say, okay, it's not so bad. Then we start to jump on the trend. So because we are used to doing business a certain way or running our business a certain way, when we try these tools and it doesn't work as it's not as seamless as you want it to be, most time people just pull back and say, you know what, this thing this thing is not working for me, right? This thing is not working, this thing is not working. And then before you know it, they go back to their old ways. Finally, a big problem in our world today is data security. Because as you leverage digital tools, you tend to generate a lot of data. You tend to also absorb a lot of data from clients, from customers. Data security has become even more important, and it's very sad. It's sad for me to say this, but in Nigeria, we don't take data security very seriously. So even as users, we go to website and we fill in our information just because they said we should fill it in, not necessarily because we understand what they want to do with our data or what we're going to get in return. So data security has become even more important, right? So that has become that has become, and one last thing that I'd like to say about data security is to advise everyone who is on this call that please, before you put your details on any website or sign up for a webinar like this, always ensure that it's from a credible source, and you can verify the people behind the collection of that data, right? So that you do not give your data to people who will use it for malicious activities, right? So we need to be very careful and very conscious of that. All right, so I'm about to go into the tools now, but before I do that, let me quickly see if you guys have any comments for me. All right, no comment, no questions. Yes, okay, great. So I think it's going on well so far. All right, good. Oh, thank you very much. I can see a number of more people have joined us. Thank you for joining us. All right, thank you.